I would just like to set everyone straight on the facts of my case. What it is everyone in a position of power trying to turn Gerard McGreevy and him himself into a victim. And to turn himself into a victim, he's had to commit all these crimes under fear and violence: abuse, threats, intimidation, harassment, criminal harassment, manufacturing threats to kill that he himself instigated, carrying out acts of fraud, suspending of rights and entitlements, rehabilitation, medical and treatment needs at all times, while he went on his rampage of using restraining orders, trespass notices, using private investigators to carry out his stalking, harassment and criminal harassment of me and my family, using police to put my life under siege, and manipulating, I don't know, every medical professional under the sun, employing medical experts to literally violate and rape my life for his benefit, to undermine who I am as a human being. The bottom line is that no person who committed a crime against me has ever been held criminally to account, even though they were being paid by McGreevy to carry out these malicious, criminal, abusive and violent acts, whether it's security guards, private investigators or police, or judges, or commissioners, or ombudsmen, or even ministers and prime ministers themselves. The whole intent is to turn themselves into victims and to commit crimes against their victim, which fear and violence used against the victim when the victim has done nothing wrong is a crime. It has criminal implications and criminal intent behind it. And then it's got all the other actions that apply to it. And the rule of law is then used to attack the victim on behalf of the terrorists themselves, because he was caught out committing crimes. And he wasn't held criminally to account for the crimes that he actually committed, which was making a false declaration in my name to compromise me in the first place. And the more I complained, the worse he became. And the worse he became, the harder it became for me. And literally he's got to walk free and make big bucks. And I've got to remain a prisoner, a hostage and a captive of the New Zealand government, who sold my life as a slave trade and to ACC, who then they were able to do whatever the fuck they liked. So that gives you a quick breakdown of exactly how these terrorists work. And the whole intent is, once you involve fear and violence, what you're trying to do is criminally provoke the victim at every point in turn. You're trying to criminally entrap your victim at every point in turn, and you're not being protected by the law. His crimes were never policed. The actions of his private investigators and his security guards and his staff and his management were never ever policed. The crimes passed on to other people, the false allegations that he made, the phone calls that he made to different medical professionals and different medical experts. Every step of the way along the line, he controlled my entire fucking life, because the bastard is nothing but a terrorist through and through. And that goes for Helen Clark as well, and her entire cabinet, and more so Ruth Dyson and John Junkie and that Bill English and all his cabinet, and Jonathan Coleman. They're nothing but terrorists either. So, and now we're down to Jacinda. So she knows I've reached the end of the fucking road. I've told her straight. This case either ends in a Royal Commission of Inquiry with all the facts being put on the table, and this fucking terrorist not being able to turn himself into a victim. I also didn't mention in my last video that Dr. Brett Roach, the GP involved, committed alleged suicide in December 2009. And all the medical notes and all the medical files disappeared as soon as his death. So that's a bit strange too. More sabotage. They just used his death as an excuse and a reason to make all the medical notes and medical files disappear. So that literally sabotages my entire fucking life and my entire case, because ACC's already destroyed all the medical notes and medical files and all their case notes and case files. So they've only kept what suited their purpose and what McGreevy had written up under his vigilante state terrorist actions, and all his manufacturing of brain injury and mental illness to violate and rape my life. So literally I think that's about a good rundown of exactly how this terrorist works. But it definitely was a case of attempted murder at the very least. And it's a case of criminal provocation. It's a case of criminal entrapment. The government's repealed the laws of criminal entrapment, so what the fuck are you left with? So the government is trying to back me into a corner at all times and use the legal and justice system to commit the crimes that they're actually committing in this case. And they're funding it all with taxpayers' money and crown and government resources. And so they think that silence is the way to go, and that they're going to give me their processes to literally, they want me to take them on through their processes and go out and spend millions, tens of millions of dollars to bring these terrorists criminally to account. That's not going to happen. So the government has a choice of a Royal Commission of Inquiry, or this case ending in a last resort, which was exactly their criminal intent from start to finish. And the reneging and the chicanery and trickery and deception of entering agreements with me and then using them to hold me criminally to blackmail and ransom. Now, you put up with that for 20 years, people, and you see what it feels like. Now, I'm not putting up with any more of this shit. They're either going to come to the table and discuss it in a proper, lawful, just, fair and reasonable manner, or they're going to go in the attack, and this case is going to end in a fucking last resort. And if it ends in a last resort, then the government, all its cabinet of ministers and prime ministers for the last fucking 20 years need to be held criminally to account for the criminal intent they had in this case. And that was the murder of my life. Now, they'll try and turn me into the villain like they always have, but they're not getting away with it. They've abused the Mental Health Acts in every way known to man, denied me access to video record everything that was being said while I was in their fucking custody, actually under their kidnapping. So, yeah, you all get the gist of it. At the end of the day, I've always been a very civilized, placid, normal human being, very confident. And it's not my fault that the people that I'm dealing with are the most stupidest fucks on the planet. And when you say that's just typical of New Zealand. Ignorant fuck. The whole fucking lot of them, actually. It's if they can't answer a question, or they think that they have to answer you with aggression and abuse and threats and intimidation and standover tactics, that's the mentality they have. And then they accuse their victims of everything they're doing. And that's the lowlifes that they truly are. So, yeah, we're almost at the last resort. So it's now going to come down to the Prime Minister. And so far, no one's answering my videos. I'm sure the government have them under police scrutiny or something like that. Personally, I couldn't give a fuck. They can do whatever they like, because if it comes out in a court case, it'll all come out in a court case anyway, no matter which way they go, because they've declared it an act of war against me. They'll probably try and take bits and pieces from my videotapes and try and use that. You know, that's the type of scum and lowlife that you're actually dealing with. They know how to commit crimes, but they don't know how to give victims justice and accountability. And this is all so they can maintain their slave trade industry, which is what New Zealand is built upon, a slave trade industry. You're a prisoner, you're hostage, you're captive. You don't have any rights, we own you. You better watch your back, sunshine. Jan White says she hopes you don't go and get a gun. Being beat up in a bar, me, and the guy going, you think you're the big man, you were warned to drop it. And the other one was in the park, drop your case against the ACC and think of your children. And other than that, it's just been threats, intimidation, harassment, criminal harassment, and putting you under siege in your own home. These people want to make you out to be the villain, when they're actually the ones creating and committing all the crimes. And that's what these terrorist lawyers in positions of power and these cabinet of ministers and prime ministers do to their victims. So, on that note, They can all go fuck themselves, because I'm coming after them one way or the other. It's either going to be lawful through a Royal Commission of Inquiry, or it's going to be fucking personal. And then they're all going to be charged with murder for murdering my life. I want you to remember that. They're murdering my life. And they're not getting away with it. And so, regardless of what I do, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be their prisoner, their hostage, their captive. I'm not going to be under their fucking slave trade either. So they have a choice of addressing it all. They can repeal the laws of criminal provocation, so they can do this to their victims. But they can't fucking make laws to protect their victims. Fuck them. I pay taxes to be served and protected, not to be turned into a prisoner, a hostage and a captive and kidnapped by the terrorists committing these crimes against me and declaring acts of war against me. So, on that note, they can all go fuck themselves. And they're probably saying the same thing about Mr. Cruikshank and go fuck himself too. But if Mr. Cruikshank turns this into a last resort, then they're all going to be charged with fucking murder. Because if I'm going down, be assured every last one of these motherfuckers are going down with me.